I'm here with David Southwick, who's our Shadow Minister for Police. Now, we all believe in the right to protest and the right to freedom of speech, but David, last week what we saw on the streets of Melbourne was utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely, Brad. So we're standing here on the steps of Parliament where we have lots of people that protest and exercise their democratic right. But what we had last week was a deliberate attempt to shut down our city and to hold us all to ransom. The intersections were all effectively jam-packed of people. We had individuals gluing themselves to the road, and certainly points where locals couldn't get to work, and of course the city was shut down, with police, some 16,000 police hours used at a cost of $3 million. $3 million of taxpayers' money used to babysit these protesters.
Now, we all believe that we should be doing everything we can for our environment and protecting and defending the wonderful natural environment that we have.
Sure.
But this was utterly unproductive insofar as I don't think it actually achieved much, if anything at all.
Well, certainly a lot of Victorians were absolutely beside themselves in terms of not being able to get to and from work. We had situations of a man with a disability pushed and shoved. We had even somebody from my electorate that was trying to get to Francis Perry Hospital to give birth but needed a police escort, and this is just not good enough. These protesters have every right to protest, but not at the expense of what they did, of the cost, the financial cost, and also breaking the law. We had one protester that was arrested 6 times, back on the streets each day protesting, and these guys will just get a slap on the wrist. And the reason why, Brad, very important to know, Daniel Andrews got rid of move-on laws, which would have allowed these protesters to be moved on quickly and not disrupt our city. And secondly, we don't have tough enough sentencing laws, and of course, taxpayers end up footing the bill.
So what should we do about it?
Well, you know what? These protesters should be sent a bill. If it's good enough for them to be able to put their name down on a list and say that they want to be arrested and shut down our city and do something illegal, then these guys should be ultimately sent the bill, not taxpayers.
And at this point, there's no plans for the government to send them a bill?
Look, this government, as usual, has sat on their hands. Daniel Andrews has done nothing. And what we are really concerned that this doesn't become the new norm. What we had on last week was a swarming attack where people will turn up in different areas without any police warning. And is this what's going to happen? Are we going to see our city shut down and held to ransom by these protests in the future because Daniel Andrews is failing to act?
So, David, when I heard the protesters last week saying, what do we want? Climate action, when do we want it now? I don't necessarily disagree with that, but
Sure.
I also think that mums and dads go to work in the morning, actually just want to get to work so they can earn a wage, so they can pay for their kids' school bills, they can pay for their mortgage, put food on the table and provide for their families. I think that is really at the heart of what Victorians want. And to learn, as you've told us today, that there's been such an incredible bill that they've been slapped with because of the government's lack of law in this area. And also the protest that happened last week is absolutely shocking. $3 million, mate, that could have been put into schools, it could have been put into hospitals, it could have been put into community services around the area.
And more policing.
And more policing, keeping our streets safe, which is so critically important. David, thanks so much for joining us, and
Pleasure.
everyone wishing your portfolio.
Thank you, Brad. Nice talking to you.